Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I hope you've had a great week. My name's David. I'm a Scottish man in a van, and I've been living in this van now for over 2.5 years, travelling across my home country of Scotland. But I've also travelled down to England, Wales, Ireland, and across to mainland Europe to France, Switzerland and Germany. But this series is all about you and the questions that you have regarding van life. Now, over the last 2.5 years, I've been sharing my journey, and I have over 500,000 followers across social media now. So I've got a lot of questions to answer. Please leave a comment below of something that you would like to see in a future episode, and I'll do my best to answer it for you. And your first question should be, why the hell is you wearing those shorts? I'm in Scotland. Well, there's a beautiful loch behind us here, and if you've been following me for a while, you'll know I love my cold dips. And that is exactly what I'm going to do at the end of this video, because I need a good freshen up. I am literally just awake. So come on inside, let's take you on a tour. So this is my van, Skye, as in the Isle of Skye in Scotland. And if you've been following me for a while, you know I redecorated the inside of this fairly recently in December, after doing it originally when I bought it. And a lot of people have asked me about the build itself. I can't actually talk about that because I didn't build the van myself. It was built by a couple in their early 30s. They went to Europe in it for a year, travelled across 17 countries. When I was looking for a van, I saw this one. It ticked all the boxes for everything I need to live fully off grid, which is why ultimately I bought it. So why didn't I build it myself? I was living in a 3rd floor flat in Dundee. I had nowhere to keep it under cover, out of the elements for the Scottish winter. It would have been out on the street. There would have been no way I could have done it. I did look at it. I bought the camper van conversion Bible. Even though I didn't build it, it was a brilliant resource to have because it gave me an understanding of exactly what I needed to be fully off grid. So let's start from the beginning. It's a 2014 Fiat Decor. It's got 153,000 miles on the clock, but the current engine was put in at 83,000 miles, so the current engine's only done around 70,000 miles at the moment. A reconditioned one was put in shortly before I bought it, so there's still plenty of life in her yet. I chose a long wheelbase van purely for space. I didn't want anything huge like a traditional motorhome. I wanted a van. I looked at some smaller ones as well, but I just felt if this was going to be my home, then I needed a little bit of space. And it's also why I went for a van that had been designed like a mini home as well. I looked at your sort of traditional standard campers. They're brilliant if you want to go away for weekends or you want to go away for a week at a time and things like that. But I just felt if I was going to live in this van full time, I wanted it to be like a little mini home, and I want it to look like a mini home as well, just to make that transition going from a larger space into a smaller one a little bit easier for me, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So what I'm going to do for this tour is start in the back of the van, in the garage, under my bed, show you what's in there, talk a little bit about the electrics, the off-grid capability, batteries that I have, my water tank, my pump for the sink, for the shower, etc. And then we'll come inside and I'll dive deeper into everything that's inside this van. Right, so in the back here is essentially what I call the garage, and this is where I actually fill up my water. So that cap comes off and I've got a food grade hose which disconnects to the tap and fills that up. The water tank itself is 125 litres, and that will last me anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, even with showers as well. And next up I have my Bluetti PV200 portable solar panels, and they charge my Bluetti power station that I have. And that normally sits just in the middle seat in the front with me, so I can charge it with the cigarette lighter whilst I'm driving. It's honestly a great bit of kit. For 2 years I relied just solely on my batteries and my solar panels that I have on the roof of the van, and that's made a huge difference. I think some of the cables from the battery to the actual plug points maybe aren't quite thick enough, and I found when I was putting the water boiler on or using a hairdryer for example, or a toasty machine, then what would happen is that it would trip the inverter. So that's been a welcome addition, because all my high powered stuff I can power through that, and I can use it to sit outside and have an outdoor cinema against the side of the van and things like that. It's a great bit of kit, can't recommend it enough. I'll bring these out and let you see them. So inside here I've just got some of your basic tools that you might need to grab quickly. Spanners, multimeter, tape, just, you know, things along those lines really, nothing fancy. And in the second box, these clip together. In the second box, I have just all my fishing and camping gear, smoking midge, tent pegs, fishing reels, stuff like that, just for my sort of adventures, if you like, and it keeps everything all neat and tidy. I've only got one fishing rod in the van at the moment, but I usually have this packed out with camping and fishing gear as well. You can barely get in it, to be honest. And then the bigger box, this has some essentials for the van. Jump cables, that's just a cool bag. I've got some cleaning stuff in here, got some, you know, silicone sealant, fuses, circuit breakers, a smart battery charger if I ever need it, caulking gun, WD-40, paint, just to touch up some of the paint work that I've done inside it as well. So just a whole mixture of things really that go in this one. But again, it's just much better having it organised, and then it's not just all a mess inside the van. And I know where everything is that way then as well. So yeah, quite handy. I'll get that out of the way. So as you can see, there's the water tank there, and up above it you'll see the Sureflow pumps, and that's what pumps the water through the flexible pipework to the sink essentially. Bungee cord here as well. Now that comes in handy when I've got multiple fishing rods that are quite large, because it just holds them up and out the way. And then here's all the electrics. I know I should have it all boxed up and all the rest of it, but like I said, I didn't build it. You've got a 3000 watt inverter there, and this is the critical part here. You've got 4 lithium LifePo batteries sitting there in sequence. There's also a BMS system on that and a temperature gauge. And my BMS system has an app where I can see the level of my battery at any time. Now, having the temperature gauge and the BMS system essentially help control the batteries, and lithium doesn't work particularly well when it gets really cold. What happens is, if the temperature drops to below zero, or I think it's like 5 degrees or something like that, which it does regularly in Scotland, especially during the winter, there's heating pads that come on to keep the batteries working at an optimal temperature. And you get something like, it's like 5,000 life cycles you get with those batteries, and that's going from 0 to 100. Now a traditional lead acid battery, once you drain it more than 50%, the battery starts to damage and you can do serious damage to it, which is why generally they don't last. But lithium LifePo definitely have the longest lifespan. They are the most expensive, of course, but you can literally drain them down to 10% before you need to charge them up again. And to be honest, if you've got the right electrics in your van, you shouldn't really need to do that anyway. I'll talk about a big reason why I chose this van. It was actually the fridge, believe it or not, because it is so efficient. Anyway, let's go back to the solar and the split charge. So right up there, you can see the Victron Smart Solar Charge, DC charge. And what that means is that the batteries will charge when the van is driving with the use of the alternator, of course, but it will also charge with the solar panels at the same time as well. So even in a really cold, dark winter week in Scotland, you can charge the van just by simply driving it. You just need to make sure you've got a really good alternator. And I got mine changed fairly recently, actually, when it went. I made sure that I put in a really good one, because it is going to be under more strain than it normally would be just charging your vehicle's batteries. So one of the things I really like about the design of this van, how they did it, I've got a little cocktail table here in front, which is really handy. Oh, actually, forgot, on the side of the van, this is where I fill up my gas for my cooker. And I fill it up at any station that has an LPG pump. It costs me about £7 to fill it up, and that'll last anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks of me cooking almost daily. One of the popular questions I got asked last week was, how do you park pretty much anywhere that you like and things like that. And I think it comes down to a number of things. One, I don't park anywhere where there's a sign saying no overnight parking. I just don't do it. And there are plenty of places to park discreetly in Scotland, and being discreet is a massive help. This van has bumps and dents and scrapes and scratches all over it. And when I first bought the van, I thought, right, I'm going to get it wrapped, I'm going to get fancy big black wheels and all of that kind of thing. And after living in it full time for a couple of weeks, I soon changed my mind. I much prefer it to be stealthy. And unless you know what you're looking for, my van just looks like a work van. I could park it up in a city if I wanted to, and no one would even know I'm in there because I'm totally self-contained. I have everything I need inside the van. And I think when I say discreet, not only is it helpful that my van is stealth, but I never use levelers under my tyres. I don't have an awning or an extension. Unless I'm somewhere really secluded, I don't get my chairs out and sit outside the van and start fires or anything like that, just drawing attention to myself. Ultimately, I think it's your own behaviours that will dictate how people react to you parking anywhere. Look closely, you can even still see the old decals that were on the van originally with the business that owned it. Wheels, well, I wanted black wheels. I just took the hubcaps off and sprayed them with a black lacquer wheel paint essentially. It took like 20 minutes to do. One upgrade that I did make was I put Michelin cross-climate tyres on them. They meet the EU regulations, obviously, if you go to Europe as well. But more than that, they're just brilliant for your average mile per gallon. They're hard wearing and they last ages. I still haven't changed my tyres. I've been on the van now for 2.5 years and there's still plenty of life left in them. Great in all weather, brilliant in snow as well. When it does get colder in the winter months, I've never had a problem with them, even with mud. So having a decent sized kitchen was really important to me when choosing a van. I like my cooking and I like eating my food even more. Having an extension that goes up and out, which allows me to put my chopping board on for when I'm cooking, is a massive, massive advantage. I have a gas cooker here, which is connected to my gas tank under there, which is in a cupboard. Now, it needs to be in a cupboard to meet EU regulations when you go across to Europe. There's a cupboard, there's some cleaning stuff in there, and there's a fire extinguisher as well. It's all part of it. And the flow of gas is regulated that goes to the cooker as well. And I mentioned earlier that you fill it up from the outside. So before you fill it up, what you must do is turn the gas off. Just for those that don't know, same as you would if you were going on a ferry, for example. Turn the gas off, fill it up, turn it back on. So on that inlet, there's a regulator as well. I think you're only allowed to fill the tank up to around about 90%. That way it can never be overfilled and overpressurized with gas. And then it's regulated as well when it goes to the cooker itself. And on top of my cupboard, there's a carbon monoxide alarm, which hooks up to my mains and runs 24/7. One of the things I did when I redecorated was I removed the adhesive white tiles that were here before, and I added this orange and blue adhesive tile design. It kind of looks kind of Moroccan or something like that. Just wanted to go for something different. And here I've got my magnetic spice rack, which is really handy when I'm cooking. They're just all there. Salt and pepper, olive oil and balsamic, and a little wooden chopping board. Although I usually use that as a cheese board more than anything else. The sink itself is a nice big sink. And I think a lot of people, when they buy vans and they're looking at vans, they don't really take that into consideration and they end up with a really small sink, which is useless when you go to wash. What's also handy about this is you can also wash your hair in it. So I can wash my hair in the sink and give myself a wipe all over rather than setting up the shower fully out of this box seat and going through all that sort of faff that you have to do to have a proper shower. I can wash my hair in there, have a bit of a gypsy wash, and then I'm good to go. Under here is all the electrics. So you've got your spotlight that goes on underneath. You've got your main lights for the actual van. And the middle button is an accessory button which essentially empties my grey waste water tank, which is underslung underneath the van. There's also 2 USB charging ports and a voltage reader, and a button to turn on the Sureflow pump and get water flowing to the sink. It's a 75 litre waste tank, and it means all I need to do is press that button and it will empty it. Now, for living off grid, I don't spend a huge amount of time on campsites. I will go to obviously grey waste areas to empty that, generally speaking, but nothing I use in this van has chemicals in it. So my dishwashing liquid is chemical free, it's totally biodegradable. My shampoo that I use is fully biodegradable and natural, and I use natural soaps as well quite often for my body. I'll talk more about my toilet of choice in another episode more in full, but I use a composting toilet rather than a chemical toilet, so nothing in the van has chemicals as such in it, and therefore no chemicals are going to that grey waste tank. It's mostly just water. As for storage within the kitchen as well, it's great. I've got a drawer here for my cutlery, a drawer here for just some goods. I usually keep bread and eggs and onions and a few other bits and pieces in them, and my toasty machine, panini maker, etc. Down below is all my pots and pans, and I really like this NGT frying pan. I just like it because you can close it up and then you get less oil splatter all over your kitchen, but you can also use it as two as well. It's a great wee thing, and if I get my Amazon affiliate links set up soon, I'll add that to it because you can buy it on Amazon. And if you use one of my Amazon affiliate links for anything that I've got in the van, once I've got it set up, it just means I get a little bit of commission from it as well, so it'd be greatly appreciated. Next up, I've got a full pantry which has got my tea, coffee, a couple of herbs, some rice. I've got down here pasta, lentils, some brown sugar, some oats, some Scottish porridge. In here you have all my cleaning stuff essentially, and you've also got the boiler. Now I used to plug my boiler into my inverter, but like I said earlier, it tended to trip quite a lot. So now I use my Bluetti power station that I've got there. So I've got an extension cable that runs from the back because the plug for the boiler's in the back at the inverter. So I just run an extension cable to my power station, and then I can turn that on. If I put it on eco mode, it heats 10 litres of water up in around about 15 minutes to 40 degrees, which is perfect for a shower. I don't use that for washing the dishes. When I need to wash the dishes, or if I've been cooking with oils or grease, things like that, I'll boil the kettle and do it that way. And then the last one, my bin, fire extinguisher, and behind that is a cupboard. That's where my gas tank. And on top I have an everything drawer. Now, whether you're living in a van or a house, everyone's got an everything drawer. So that's essentially the kitchen. Now the living area, my wee living room, you could call it, is also my bathroom, my shower, my toilet, etc. And I'll show you what I mean. So inside these seats there's storage. And in this one I've just got a cafetiere, I've got a couple of bottles of whiskey, my laundry goes in there in just like a shopping bag essentially. I've got a blender in there, some crisps, I've got some washing liquid for my clothes, just general sort of things really. And in this one opens up and you've got my toilet and everything in there. Now if I want to have a shower, I've been asked a lot about this before and how I can have a shower in this seat, and it's here. I will do a more detailed episode on the toilet and the shower situation because it's a really common question. But this also doubles up as my shower. If you've been following me for a while, you've probably seen reels with me explaining how the shower works and things like that as well. But because I'm new to YouTube, you probably haven't seen it if you're just following me on here. But I will do an episode where I sort of discuss all of that in more detail. But yes, there is a shower in here. How often do I use it? Is probably a more important question. Not very often, to be honest. Like I said, it's a bit of a faff taking these off, getting the toilet out, putting the shower curtain up, hooking it up to the sink and stuff like that. At this time of year in summer or when I'm abroad, all I simply do is put this shower cup holder that's up here on the outside of my van, link up my shower head to my tap and take it outside the van with my shower mat outside as well. And that works a treat. You can have one cold if it's really warm, or if you want to put the boiler on, you can put the boiler on. It uses around about 10% of the battery from the Bluetti power station that I've got, so hardly anything, to be honest. And that charges really quickly with the solar, and it charges as I'm driving with my cigarette lighter as well, so it's always topped up. In terms of the decor, I've got a little bookshelf here. It's also got a couple of little whiskey flasks in it, and I'll keep my coasters when I'm driving up there as well. Just a selection of books. I've actually got more books in my wardrobe here as well. There's just not enough space for them. I own a lot of books, but I'm terrible at reading. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy a book. I'm not huge on fiction, but I do enjoy a good book, and I especially when I'm away somewhere and there's nothing much to do if it's raining outside. Yeah, I will have a book every now and again. Just some artwork, a little clock, and my little guitar-lele that I've got here, which I do play occasionally. Also got a remote control here, which is for the extractor fan here. It's a Max Air fan. Cannot recommend these enough. They open even when it's raining. They're absolutely fantastic, and you can set how much you want it to extract. You can also have air coming in using them as well. It's absolutely brilliant. One of the questions someone asked me last week was, how do you stop smells and condensation, especially when cooking and things of that nature? Well, if I can't, like today, open the side doors, which I would normally do if it's raining outside or something like that, what you can do is actually open the skylight here and then turn that fan on, extracting. And what it does is it creates this sort of wind tunnel inside the van, and everything just goes out there. It works an absolute treat. If you're cooking really strong smelling foods like fish and things like that, it's something you just generally have to put up with, really, more than anything. I mean, most of it sort of goes out. With the wind coming in that way, it certainly keeps it away from your bed, which is important, I think. But it's almost impossible to not get any at all. But that definitely helps. And it's also the method I use to stay cool. Because believe it or not, it's actually really warm to stay inside the van, even in a Scottish winter, with the heating system that I've got that I'll talk about in a minute. It's actually a lot more difficult staying cool. You can wake up some mornings and you feel like you're just sweating. So what I do is open that again and then get the air circulating, and you can really feel a breeze, and it works when you're abroad in a hotter climate as well. Now the bed in this van is a full double bed going across the way. Some people are quite surprised by that, but it's actually because of these inserts that have been cut out of the van on both sides. So that gives you the extra length. All I had to do when I purchased a new mattress back in December when I redecorated the van was essentially take the cover of the mattress off and cut out little L shapes so it kind of fit there. So it's just under a double length on the edge, but where you actually sleep in the sleeping area of the van, it is a double bed. Now my mate Ben has been away with me in the van previously for a couple of nights here and there, going up for a hike or whatever, and we top and tail it. He's 6'3" and he can fit in it no problem. So it is a full double bed. It's a 6-inch foam mattress, really comfortable. And the key to staying warm in winter in a van in Scotland when the heater's not on at night is to get a really good thick TOG 15 duvet, nice and heavy one, a big thick mattress topper, and I use the fleece sort of bedding during the winter months. Right now I've got my sort of spring summer lighter duvet and mattress topper that I just recently bought because I am about to go to Switzerland at the end of this month. But the bed is extremely comfortable. It's probably the comfiest bed I've ever slept in. It's funny, when I go to visit friends for different things, they'll say, oh, come in, you can, you know, one of the kids' rooms is free tonight, you can come and sleep in that. I'm like, ah, fuck right off. I'm sleeping in my own bed. And the great thing as well is if it is cold, I've actually got a little remote control here that I can reach over when I'm in bed in the morning, and that'll turn on my diesel heater. Now my diesel heater is connected to the actual diesel tank of the vehicle. It uses about 1 litre of diesel for every 4.5 hours of usage. So before I even get out my bed in the morning in the winter, I turn that heater on. It's set to a thermostat. Say if I set it to 18 degrees Celsius or something like that, or 20 degrees Celsius, it'll warm up the van to that. Because it's such a small space, it takes no time to heat up. 5 minutes, it heats up, and then I can get out of bed and I'm nice and comfy. Like I said, it's actually easier staying warmer in winter than it is staying cooler in summer, and that'll shock a lot of people, I think, because I've get that question all the time. How do you stay warm in a van in winter? How is it possible in Scotland? It's actually quite easy, and that's just what you see now on the surface. What you don't see is when the van was built, there's full insulation behind this. There's a vapour barrier covering that as well, so any condensation that goes through the cladding here, it doesn't actually get into the insulation, which is really important, obviously, because that's how mould develops and smells and things of that nature. So it's been fully insulated like you would insulate, you know, a house or anywhere else really. This is PVC cladding, so it makes it more lightweight. All the wood that they use for building the kitchen is all lightweight as well. It's not a stock kitchen you would get out of a place like Howden's, for example, which a lot of vans have, and it helps keep the weight of the actual van down as well, because it does need to be under 3.5 tons. And I've got quite a lot in here. Something that I really like here, this wardrobe as well, it's obviously got a full mirror set on the front, but also inside there is absolutely tons of space. Now I have downsized dramatically since living in a flat. That's another question I've been asked a lot, and I do have a storage unit in Dundee for various things. Just everything I've had built up over the years that I just don't need, and I have downsized and downsized and downsized probably half a dozen times since being in the van, because I realised just how little I wear and how little I actually use on a sort of day-to-day basis. So I've got toiletries in here, I've got some shoes at the bottom, I've got my spare bed sheets in a vacuum bag, and obviously all my clothes up top as well. And it's a nice big wardrobe. That's actually the shower head that I use for my shower. So it's got an on-off button and switch on it, and that would connect to the sink and go across here and sit in here to have a shower, or take it outside like I said. And the on-off switch is great. You need to save water when you're living a van life, and that way you can get yourself wet, put your soap, your shampoo and everything on, and then wet again for rinsing, rather than having the shower running the whole time. Because water is, you know, a source that you need to basically look after when you're in the van. I only use as much as I absolutely need to, whether I'm showering, whether I'm cleaning dishes. The only time I make exception to that is the amount of water that I drink. You know, and the tap water here in Scotland's brilliant, so the water in that tank's perfectly fine to drink out of here as well. Every now and again I will put some Puree Clean through the tank. So I'll put some of that into the tank, fill the tank up, and then drain the tank fully through the grey waste to give it a good sort of clean. But I don't use any chlorine tablets or anything like that in general. I like my water to be fresh, and we're fortunate here in Scotland to have some of the freshest water in the world. And one of my favourite parts of this van, and like I said, it's really important to me actually, was the fridge. Now this fridge for a van is huge. It's absolutely massive. There's plenty of space in that. You could literally do a week's shop, and it's got a spacious freezer. Now selfishly for me, I like my fishing, as you probably know from watching other episodes on my channel. So quite often when I'm in Dundee, I'll pick up frozen bait from the fishing shop there that I can take away up north with me and stuff like that, and that all goes in the freezer with some ice cubes. That's all that's in there really. A couple of gel packs in case I get an injury, and I keep my water bladder in the freezer when I'm not using it as well, my hiking water bladder, and that stops any sort of bacteria and mold and things like that sort of forming on it. It's a nice little tip. Up above the kitchen, you've got your wardrobes here. I've got all my glasses. I've just kept them in the sort of glass boxes that you get. It just stops them moving around and rattling when you're driving. I've got some plates and cups, a Scottish Man in a Van cup there. If you're watching this and you've noticed my hoodie and you've noticed that cup, I did just launch my merch over this last week. It's on my website, scottishmaninavan.com. If you fancy picking yourself up a little bumper sticker, fridge magnet, mug, hoodie, t-shirt, beanie, hat, they're all there. Inside here, this is where I've got my clothes. This cupboard's actually empty. In here, I just use little storage cubes for my socks, for example. Just little storage cubes, and it keeps everything, one, off the bottom of the cupboard, and two, it just keeps everything sort of neat and tidy, and it's not sort of going about all over the place. And they're dead cheap, those sort of storage things, and they do me fine. Again, it stops the cupboards opening. And on that note, kitchen drawers, how do I stop them from opening? Well, I've got these little locks at the top of them. On the inside, I've got these sort of double ball latches, and they do a decent job, but on the bumpy roads in Scotland, they do move. So what I've done is, I found these, they're almost like suitcase latches, and they just hold it, and they do not move. None of my drawers open anymore. It used to be an absolute bane of my life. And at the other side of the van here, I've just got a blackout blind curtain that goes across here. And that gives me access to the front of the van itself, which comes in handy for a number of reasons. One, I can get access to my Bluetti power station. I can put bags and things in the front if I need to get things out of the way in the van. And that's also where I keep my router 9 times out of 10. So if I'm in a remote location, and a lot of people have asked over the last week, how do you deal with getting internet connection and things of that nature? I get to a place where I've got 0 signal on my mobile phone. But what I can do, I've got unlimited data on my plan, but what I can do is I can take my SIM card out of my phone and I can put it into my little Netgear router. I have talked about this on a previous video, and it just sits in the front. I've got a charger from under that seat with a long cable which runs round the back, and it's a little, I don't even know what model it is now, but it's a little Netgear router, and that does the trick. I can have 0 signal on my phone, and I use that in a really remote location, and I can get anywhere from 5 to 40 megabits per second, which is ideal because it allows me to then set up my projector screen, which just gets set up as such, nice and quick and easy. And my projector at the moment is just sitting on my bed, and I can just plug that in. I've got my Fire Stick and that there, and have a movie night in the van or whatever it is I want to do. You can see all the sort of creases and that in it now. When the van's nice and dark, you don't really notice them at all. An ideal solution rather than having a solid one. And this is only half of it. It's actually huge, and what I quite enjoy doing every now and again is taking the projector screen with magnetic hooks on the outside of my van. And if I'm somewhere, I could maybe set up like a little fire on a raised stove, a couple of seats, and then have like an outdoor cinema night and things like that as well. Again, because this is so versatile. And now that I've got my power station, I can do that pretty much whenever I want. And up above here, this is just all jackets and things like that. It's my new beanie, and I've got, you know, my drone and camera stuff, extra batteries, memory cards, some down jackets, just really bits and pieces that's just easy for me to grab. And that's why it's essential to have a storage unit as well, because when I go away to work at sea for weeks on end, all of this stuff and anything that's expensive or that's vital to me goes in that storage unit. So even if something was to happen to the van, touch wood, it never does, but if anything did happen, at least all of that stuff's kind of, you know, saved, if you like. And if you're wondering why do you put the router in the front, well, it's because when this door is shut, you're essentially in a tin can, and you won't get a signal inside here. Even in a place where you get signal, it's kind of weak, to be honest. Now you can put it in the skylight, I've done that before as well, but I just don't like having the charger running up the bed, and it kind of gets in the way. So I've got all this power, the lights and all of this here on this side. But if I want to use the plugs, the plug point, I've got one plug point here with 2 plugs and one on the box seat down there with 2 plugs. If I want to use them, I need to turn my inverter on. And I turn my inverter on, this little button here, that turns it on, and that essentially activates all the plug points as well, so I can plug various things into them. Whether it's a, you know, an actual charger, my projector and Fire Stick and all of that kind of stuff. I've got like a sort of air freshener into that one, and then my charger for my router that goes in the front of my van. That's essentially how that works. And the thing is about this fridge as well is not only is it really big, it uses little to no power whatsoever. And that's why I was so keen to get it. I mean, it's an isotherm fridge, and if anyone's built out a van or, you know, is looking at Vanlife and things like that, you might have come across them. They are ridiculously expensive. I think this fridge cost almost 1,500 quid when it was new. But it is huge, and it uses little to no power. I have gone away for 4 weeks to work at sea and left this van parked up with everything off except the fridge and the solar, and came back to my batteries at 98% 4 weeks later. So it's all of those things, it's the power, everything that goes in the back, the electrics, the type of fridge that allows me to live off grid for days and days at a time. I can park up in winter and not move or turn my engine on for at least 5 to 6 days quite comfortably, and that's with my projector on, that's with the laptop open, editing videos, editing shorts and reels. So it's a whole mixture of things which allows me to sort of live off grid. I don't even have the option to plug in electric at a campsite to charge my batteries. There isn't even the option to do that. And I simply, quite frankly, just don't need it. And it just means that my pictures are usually cheaper as well, because I'm not taking any electric. And as you can see, I do like to sticker my van as well, just with different places that I go and things like that. And I just got the sample delivered, my new Scottish Man in a Van bumper sticker. It's not going on my bumper because I like to be stealth. I don't like to advertise, but it is going to go on my fridge. And now feels like a good time to do it. Right, so that is essentially a full tour of the van. I will dive into even more specific questions as these episodes go on in this series. But if you've got any other questions or anything I didn't cover, or something you maybe want me to go a little bit more into, please leave a comment below this video to let me know what you want to know. Anyway, it's time for me to get in that water and give myself a freshen up. I've still not properly woken up yet. Not gonna lie, it's pretty fresh. Feels good though. Like and subscribe for more van life adventures.